All right, welcome back, everybody. Looks like we got a small group here. I wondered what the turnout would be. Had I been decoding sports, we'd have at least a couple hundred. So it is what it is. There might not be a whole lot of people that are serious about creating community, but I really do think, we might look back a few years from now if we make this happen and think we definitely made the right decision at the rate things are going in this world. Again, I've been preaching for the last 5 years that we really need to come together. We need to create community. We need to have our own source of agriculture so we're not dependent on the system that does not intend well for us. And again, we're seeing the mainstream media forecast that there could be food shortages. The economy could collapse. There could be mandatory vaccinations beyond what's already happened. And again, all those things to me are major red flags. And they make me say, you know what? It really is the time to create a community of like-minded people who are dedicated to the cause of living in a better world and, being self-sustaining. And doing that, it is definitely a task. There's a lot of work to be done. And there's risks like anything. You got to make sure the right group of people come together, that the group can coexist, and that it can sustain itself. And I know myself, I'm a hard worker. I wouldn't have any problem, living the life of a farmer. I like getting my hands dirty. I like being outside. I like pulling the weeds. I like, I like the lifestyle. So to me, it sounds appealing. And for anyone else who's on board and on the same page, the kind of agreements we'd have to come to as a community is, where do we go? Do we stay in the U.S.? Do we find a suitable spot in the United States? Or do we go abroad? And since the majority of people in this community are U.S. citizens, the place that would make the most sense to go abroad would be our southern neighbor, Mexico, where so much of our food supply comes from that is closer to the equator. Again, the closer you get to the equator, the better it is for growing food because you have the right climate. You got the sunlight, the weather throughout the majority of the year. And with regards to our southern neighbor, the other advantage is things are a lot less expensive. For example, I was shopping around for a plot of land that would make sense in the U.S. and in Mexico. And in Alabama, and again, the thing you got to worry about in Alabama is it does flood there. For example, this piece of land's on a 100-year floodplain. The last time it flooded is in 60. They say if you build a structure there, make sure it's at least 2 feet off the ground for the next time it floods. But the thing you have to worry about in Alabama is tornadoes. They're no fun. Wouldn't that be the worst if you set up a community and a tornado came through and destroyed the whole thing? So there are some risks. And then the other thing about the U.S., we know what's going on in the spray in the sky. I have a friend in Mexico right now, Jesse, and he says one of the advantages of Mexico is he hardly sees any spray in the sky down there. So, that's another thing about Mexico. It doesn't seem like there's as much geoengineering going on. And again, even if you got a place like this in Alabama, which is certified for organic farming based on what's been going on in the soil there, are you really organic when you got the chems raining down on you? But notice, this plot of land is about 10 acres. It's about 10 acres. It's 10 acres on the nose in Alabama. It's a certified or organic farm. That's what's going on there right now. It's for sale. The sale price is $150,000. I talked to the seller this morning on the phone, and he said for an extra $50,000, they'll give us all the equipment on the land. So for $200,000, they have tractors, all the stuff you would need to maintain the land. So $150,000 for the land plus $50,000 for all the equipment that's already there. It does already have a nice barn on there and a processing facility for, maintaining and taking care of the produce. So this actually isn't a bad plot of land. There's extra room on there for building housing. And that's another thing too. If we decide to do this as a community, we have to figure out what we're going to do about housing. And there are all sorts of affordable options. If you ever heard of a yurt, again, yurts are like really fancy tents that are meant to be there for the long term. There's people that live in a yurt for 20 years. And, you can get a yurt for as cheap as $5,000, or if you want a bigger one, they can go up to as much as $15,000. But if you don't know what a yurt is, you might want to look into that, Y-U-R-T. The problem with a yurt in a place like Alabama is the humidity. Yurts are susceptible to mold. Of course, if you maintain them real well and keep them clean and, put on the treatments to reduce mold, you can prevent that. But that is one of the downsides of a yurt, where there's high moisture. In a place like Alabama, they can get moldy, and you definitely don't want to be living in a moldy environment. But there are other affordable housing options if you were going to come together with a community. And again, we will take calls on people's thoughts. There might be people already out there who are listening today who've had similar experiences or participate in similar things, or maybe they're homesteading right now. And anyhow, notice for about $150,000, $200,000, you can grab about 10 acres in Alabama. And looking around the nation, there are other options. There are other states. It's funny. One of the top-ranked homesteading states is actually Oregon. And thing about Oregon, though, is they have really high property taxes. By the way, the property tax on this place is only $500 a year because it's farmland, so it's not real expensive. In Oregon, it would cost more. The thing about Oregon, though, is it gets kind of cold in the winter. Alabama gets really hot in the summer, though. That's the thing. Oregon, you'd be a lot more comfortable in the summer, but a lot colder in the winter. So anyway, we could figure out where the right place is in the U.S., but this is probably the going rate for a decent piece of farmland. Around $150,000, $200,000 for 10 acres. If you go down to Mexico, your money can go a lot further. Case in point, here's a nice piece of farming real estate for $175,000 US. That's 100 acres. So about the same price, but 10 times the amount of land. And also on this land, it already has a nice well, and the well's powered by wind power. Might want to hook up some solar too, just in case you need the well and it's not a windy day. But again, this seems like a nice piece of real estate. It's got already fruit-bearing trees all over it. It's got all sorts of open land. It can be used for ranching or farming. And again, I mean, you could over time create quite the community here, having 100 acres. A lot of people can live on a 100-acre plot of land. And, that I could see if we start a community, maybe it only starts off with 5 or 10 people dedicated to the cause. But as time goes on, as you show people how to do it, as the community, see, the people who start there at the beginning are going to have the hardest work, right? Setting up the land, starting the farm, starting the process. But it'll have to be those people dedicated to the cause that inspire others to do it. And, again, I think this really is like one of the greatest acts humanity could do right now, because we're living in this world where the system that exploits us is telling us what the future is, and the future doesn't look pretty. It sounds like a future of much greater exploits. Total, essentially, espionage by the government, keeping surveillance over all aspects of your life. Again, that's why I'm really thinking. I've been thinking about this for a long time. I've been preaching this for years, but I'm just like at the point now. I mean, it was the message 2015. It was 7 years ago I put out the video that we needed to create something like this. Back then, my idea was Detroit. By the way, Michigan's actually ranked as one of the best states for homesteading. And Michigan does have a lot of fresh water, but it also gets cold there in the winter. So that's why South seems more appealing to me. And the nice thing about places like this piece of real estate's in the Yucatan Peninsula, their climate's kind of temperate. I mean, it does get warm, but it doesn't get real cold, and it also doesn't get too extremely hot. But it's a temperature, and of course, when you live in a place, your body adjusts. Just like I remember when I moved down to Arizona, at first, like, the summer was so intense, I couldn't stand it. But then, while it always seemed hot in the summer, I mean, it gets as hot as 120 degrees in Arizona. I remember when I'd go back to Portland in the summer, if it was 80 degrees in Portland, I felt cold. So, again, the body's highly adaptable. If this became the place you live, you would adjust. And anyhow, so, again, money goes a lot further in Mexico. If you're wondering about moving to Mexico, if you have a passport, you're allowed to be there for 180 days. And when you first get there, actually even before you get there, in the U.S., the ideal thing to do, if you plan to stay there for more than 180 days, what I read you should do is you should go to the Mexican embassy in your state, and in all likelihood, your state has one. Here for Washington, it's in Seattle. But you just go and you fill out a permanent resident card, and you say what your intent is to go there. If you plan to go and live there and start a farm there, you just write that down, apply for your permanent resident card, and you never have to renew it again. And from what I understand, if you apply for that and go for the process and state your honest reasons for going there, you will be accepted. You don't have to be a citizen to live there permanently. But with your permanent resident card, it pretty much gives you all of the same rights as a citizen. The only one you don't get is the right to vote in elections. And I've never been much of the voting. I've never looked into Mexico's elections, but again, I've honestly never voted as a U.S. citizen, just because when I was 17 was the 2000 election, and I saw what a charade that was, and I said, okay, voting looks like validating the lie to me. So anyhow, it is a pretty simple process. And the other thing is even if you don't have a passport, if you fill out the permanent resident card, you can still get into Mexico. They'll let you in without a passport. So that's also something to keep in mind. And the nice thing about Mexico is you can drive there if you don't want to fly. You do have to drive through Mexico. This place in the Yucatan Peninsula is southern Mexico, and from everything I was reading, Yucatan Peninsula is a great place to be. Lots of local agriculture, inexpensive, good weather, and again, properties like this. Now, to show you, if we pooled resources, this is another thing. I mean, this is a lot more expensive. This is over $2 million US right here. But what you get with this property, see, this is possible if we pooled resources. Notice you get nearly 500 acres. So you get 5 times the lot that you have here. 100 acres is massive. 500 acres is pretty much your own city. So you get 500 acres, and then you get an old hotel on a property that's pretty interesting. And notice this hotel has 12 bedrooms in it and 15 bathrooms, and that's likely because there's a bathroom in each of the hotel rooms. And there's probably one like out in the lobby and another one in the hallway of each floor. So that's probably why you have 3 more bathrooms than bedrooms. And notice this is a massive structure. It's nearly 75,000 square feet. But again, this is an old resort that's now for sale with a massive property. And the thing is, if you had initially, there's 12 bedrooms here, right? So you have a house that could house 12 people. So if the initial investment was 12 people who created a trust together to come up with the expense of the property, the idea could be that, we'll allow other people to come here, and there's plenty of room to build more properties. By the way, that's the other thing that's nice about Mexico. Right now, the going rate for having a nice little house built in Mexico, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house for the materials and construction, the total cost is approximately $45,000 right now in Mexico. So, if we had a property like this on an initial investment, and we want it, and we're saying, listen, we're trying to create a community here. People like-minded. We're trying to create a real community here. Local agriculture. People that look out for each other. We're trying to build something here. We're trying to model something for other people to come to this part of the world and do what we're doing and escape the tyranny. The idea could be, maybe those people pay. We'd figure out what the fee is, but they have an entry fee. Let's just say it was $10,000. For $10,000, you get a plot of land here, and you can also build a property. Maybe it's a little more than $10,000, but again, it wouldn't be real expensive. It would be achievable, something that most people can afford. Because honestly, most people in America who already have property, if they could sell their house and go to Mexico and get a brand new house built for $45,000 and let's say $20,000 enter fee to live on this land, that's only $65,000. The average house in the U.S. is worth over $200,000 right now. So, assuming at first you're appealing to homeowners, that would be an easy conversion for them. They could sell their stuff there, come down to Mexico, take a small part of what they just sold all their property for. Now they have a property here in the community, and they have some savings, some rainy day money. So again, we could figure out all this, things like this, but if we did have people that were serious about this, like, yeah, right, the Matrix, I know he has some money and he's serious about this. We find a few more people, maybe we could actually take on an investment like this. 2,300,000, but again, you get 500 acres, you get a beautiful building that already exists, and I mean, seemingly the sky's the limit for having a nice big community dedicated to a cause here. Here, let me see if I can make some of these pictures bigger of this property. But you can see it, it's got like the nice old roads there, and again, this could be really cool. This is a little more expensive, but just to think about possibilities. It's funny. It has a nice little Catholic church on the premises. Turned into the Church of the Truth Seeker. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, it's got facilities. It's got lots of land, and again, because it has lots of spaces of land like this, all sorts of place to. I mean, in time, just imagine if you had like you could build like a community gathering hall, weekly activities. I'm just envisioning it because, again, the big expense is the upfront thing. But the nice thing about Mexico is then you don't have property taxes, so there's not like some huge upkeep expense to the government each year. It's like once you've made the investment, once it's yours, it's pretty much yours. And then all there is to do from there is keep up the property and keep up the land and keep up the food supply. So this is the high end idea. And again, there are people in this community that have resources, and if they see the future the same way I see it, I mean, there is the motivation and the reason to get together and make this happen, something like this. So, but yeah, I mean, this is pretty cool property. You got a nice little hub where the hotel is, and plenty of room to branch out. You can see it has a gate and all. So, by the way, the other way that the community could sustain itself is if you like start looking into people who have YouTube channels that are living off grid, and showing how that they're living off grid, what conversions they made in their life, what foods they're growing, how they've decorated their yurt, all these different things out there. You'll notice those channels have tens of millions of views. Theoretically, if you had a community here and, also doing a little YouTubing and monetizing their channel and showing how telling their story of how they went off grid, showing what foods they're growing, what the latest project is. If that was the channel, that's a nice revenue stream. And that's another thought on a property like this. Really, you only have to put 20% down. So 20% of what? 2,300,000? What is that? It's under 500,000. I mean, that's still a lot, but if we did it that way as a community and then figured out to raise resources to make the monthly payment, and again, that could come through a bunch of people also vlogging, I guess is the word for it, their activities here. So theoretically, that would be another way to pay off the expense of the adventure and project. And of course, because you have so much land, you can also have a cash crop. Is hemp? I'm sure we'll have to look into all what's. Again, I mean, all that land, we'd be able to grow more food than we need for ourselves. And again, I mean, that could go right into the economy. That could also be another way to pay for the property. So, And just understand there are also smaller properties that are more affordable. But man, when I look at this, I'm like, this is like the type of property to really create a nice big community dedicated to a cause. And again, safety in numbers too. So, other options that are out there right now. I mean, there's actually a lot of them. There's a lot of them. But this one's a smaller plot of land that also has a living space on it. It's not as big as the hotel. This is 7 acres, so much smaller. It's about 400,000, but it does have a living space and it does have acreage. So the thing is, there's lots of options. And again, just like all economies, things are going for sale, things are being sold. But again, if the idea is to start small as well, if at first there's only so many people committed to the idea, again, model it. Go down there. It starts small. It starts with a handful of people. But again, if we're sharing the story, inspiring others, before you know it, there's more people that want to participate. There's more resources available. Maybe it starts with a smaller property, and in a couple years' time, there are the resources to do something bigger, like what we were just looking at with, again, this property right here. So, but yeah, the idea of community and pooling resources and working together to make big things happen, that is the idea. Here's another property that's for sale right now. The problem with this one is it's pretty much just a former resort, and it has a little patch of grass where you wouldn't be able to grow that much food. But notice, I mean, it is you couldn't get anything like this in the U.S. for this much money. If in time, more resources came in, it could be something like you have the 100 acres where the farm is, right? And you just imagine you get a property like this next to the acre or the farm where there's 100 acres, right? So you would have a facility here that's good for 5 people. You'd even have a nice swimming pool. But then you'd also have the inexpensive land for farming where you could expand on that and other people could live there as well. So, I mean, you look at $368,000 plus $175,000. That's less than $600,000. Right away, there's housing for 5 people, and land for much more, and land to grow for a lot more than just 5 people. Again, if there's people who are serious about making the commitment, there's a lot of people in the U.S. who do have some assets, who have a property right now that they could sell and come in and participate with something like this. So that could also be the idea. You acquire the land for the farm, you acquire some places like this, so there's places for people to live. And like I also said, the going rate for building a structure that's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house right now, the going rate for that is $45,000, which is very inexpensive compared to the States. So again, there's also just the option of getting land and building homes on the land. But just throwing out all these things out there from doing my research. In a minute, we'll take calls to see what you think. And again, there's only so many people that join this live stream. Again, it seems like for every 20 people that are interested in Sports Decode, there's one person here for this, which is okay. But I imagine the people who are tuned in are the people who are interested in doing it. So when we do take calls, again, I'm curious to how you feel. Is Mexico an option to you? Would you be willing to relocate to Mexico? Would you rather stay in the States? If you'd rather stay in the States, is there a geographic region that you think's best? Again, southern states, better growing season. Southeast has the longest growing season, but it also has the storms. If you're close to the coast, you got hurricanes. Inland, you got tornadoes. I was actually reading that New Mexico is actually not bad for... New Mexico is not bad for what we're talking about. It's just you got to make sure you have irrigated land because there are droughts in New Mexico. So, California is so expensive, so I didn't even really consider that as an option. But yeah, there are a lot of different things out there. You can see this isn't quite as fancy, but it does have a lot of land. This is $650,000 US in Mexico, also Yucatan Peninsula. All these properties we're looking at are in the Yucatan Peninsula. And maybe you think there's a different location. From my research, Yucatan Peninsula seems like a pretty good place to be. But notice, you get a lot of land for this $650,000. This is 340 acres nearly. It's a lot of acreage. And it does have some nice big buildings that are already on the premises, which could be put to good use. And of course, for additional housing, so many options. Cheap houses to build, yurts, Cabanas are another popular form of housing down there, kind of like the open wall construction because it's warm climate. But again, this property has over 4,000, or excuse me, over nearly 15,000 square feet of structural space. So doesn't have as many bedrooms and bathrooms, but I suppose those could always be added. So anyhow, yeah, I think you get the idea, and I guess we'll take some calls to see what other people think. And it is the number on the screen. Make sure I got the right number on the screen. Yeah, I got the right number on the screen. Hold on, let me open up the phone line here. Hold on, it's funny. There's somebody just messaged me who has a. I'm not sure if they're part of the stream right now. There's a couple in Kentucky that have a homestead, and they're looking for more people as well. They said they would like me to stop by when we do New York this year. So they are homesteading in Kentucky. They just messaged. I don't know if they're actually part of the stream. I suppose if they are, they'll call in. So let me get the phone line open here. Okay, the line is open, so I'm interested to hear your thoughts. And yeah, right, the Matrix. He's also looked at he's got a bunch of properties circled as well. He's gonna send me that list later today, so we'll talk more about this. But this is our first discussion. Again, I plan to keep talking about this. I really do want to make a community come together, and I really think it is the path forward. So this is discussion. This is official discussion one of this topic, and we will see what we can put together today. Well, there's a lot of people that are buying. There are a lot of Americans that have gone to Mexico. It's just like I was talking to my friend Jesse, who's down there, and he hasn't had any issues. He's doing something similar. A group of people acquired some land, so and they haven't had any problems with the cartel. But yeah, I mean that is one of the downsides of Mexico is that legally you cannot own a gun, but of course the police and the military and the cartel have guns. So yeah, I think a lot of the cartel fear. I mean, there is something there, but I think it's just like the people in Seattle. The people in Seattle are deathly afraid of the town I live in. They think if you go to this town where I live, Yakima, because the Mexican cartel's here in this town too, and there is more murders in Yakima than there is the rest of the state combined, and it is all drug related. But as long as you stay out of the way, you don't end up in the obituaries. But in Seattle, everyone's under the impression that if you come to Yakima, you're going to be killed by all the gang violence. And that's not really the case. I've been here for 4 years, and you guys have seen me surviving on the corner. What's up, 615?
Hey, Zach. I just want to start off saying I appreciate you doing this stream and getting, talking about this kind of message. But my thought, so I'm from Tennessee. I would say somewhere here in the South, like you said.
By the way, Tennessee, from what I read, is actually a great state for homesteading. I saw Tennessee was ranked as one of the top states.
It is. I mean, there's a lot of agriculture and farming down here. I've done a little bit of farming, and I know some people like at the Tennessee Department of Agriculture who know the governor and stuff. So they would probably be able to help us out with maybe grants even when it came to something like that. But I do like the South. Don't really like Mexico. Don't really like that idea. I mean, they look nice. Mexico definitely looks nice, but I feel like we should stay in the States. But realistically too, here's like a big idea, a problem that we might, kind of have amongst ourselves. I feel like it needs to be people will need to be that come together. They'll still need to be self-sufficient. So what we should try and do is kind of make it more towards like an RV. I know people will hate this, the way it sounds, but like an RV kind of trailer park where, we have like water and electric hookups, and then like on an individual basis, like people can pay for their own electric and water, So, unless you want to, have that come from like community funds, where the community pays for the electric and water every month. So that's just kind of something that I've thought about. What's your take on that?
Everything you said makes sense. It's tough because if we're trying to do this as a group, there's going to be people that have very different opinions. People that don't want to be in Mexico, people who also don't want to be in the States. I'm kind of on the fence because I feel like staying in the States is also not the place to be. We're a lot more likely to get mandatory vaxxed here in the U.S. than we are in Mexico. But
I feel like if we went out somewhere remote enough, and we became self-sufficient and self-sustainable enough, that we could be able to kind of weather that,
that's also possible. So, when you were talking about grants, that's something I hadn't thought about. I mean, that could be helpful. Do you know anyone who's done that?
I don't know anyone, but like I said, so I worked at like this farm here in the state of Tennessee, and it's like on the headquarters of where the Department of Agriculture for the state is. So like, I don't know, it's just kind of well connected. And, they talked about stuff like that, because I was telling them, like, I'm interested in homesteading and farming. And, I was like, how does think about it. How does a 20-year-old in this day and age, that's been raised in like the city or the suburb, how do they become a farmer? Like, that's like almost an impossible task, like that they've made it on us here in this country, to take that on.
Well, so it's like if you have a work ethic, it's not that hard. I mean, to make plants grow. So, I mean, it's just a matter of putting in the effort.
True, but you have to have land and equipment, and really be able to, because, if you're 3 hours away from a city, you also have to, think about, selling your food, you have to ship it 3 hours or whatnot. It's kind of difficult. Like I have cousins that chicken farm like in Western Kentucky, and it's not super lucrative, to be honest. Not every.
Sure, we're not necessarily looking into it to make money. It's just about having a community and resources and food. So.
For sure. Yeah.
And again, honestly, you look at the average farmer's salary, it's nothing. I mean, honestly, I'm just looking at a bunch of these YouTube channels of people who've gone and lived off grid, and I mean, they got tens of millions of views in just the last 2 years. And YouTube doesn't have a problem monetizing that stuff. For every million views, when they're not suppressing your content, that's $5,000. So I'm just looking at some of these people who've gone off grid, and it's like, okay, they've racked up 50 million views. They've had this channel for 2.5 years. They've made a lot of cash living off grid, just showing people how to do it. So.
Oh, for sure. That's definitely something that we would do. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's probably where the money is in farming, honestly, just showing other people how to do it.
Yeah. But, it would just be interesting to, have conversations with, into how to get grants and just, help that way too.
Sure. Yeah, so, okay, but so there's a vote for the U.S., and Tennessee's actually not a bad place from what I was reading. The tornadoes in Tennessee, though, it is tornado country as well. That's just one of the things I worry about. I was like, God, what if we got hit by a tornado? So.
There's a couple tornadoes, but it's not really, like, as bad as I would say, like, Kansas and Oklahoma. Those places probably get hit, like, way worse.
Okay.
Than here. We get a couple, but it's really not as bad as
okay.
maybe you see on the news.
All right. Well,
but also
go ahead.
Another thing too, though, is we could like team up with Amish farmers. I think that that's like another thing. Once we get like settled in, is definitely look to like the Amish to try and help on us or to help us and like
Sure.
team up with,
Sure.
because they know how to, they know how to do it. So
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It would be very smart to ally with the Amish. They got the model. So.
But yeah, but I'm thinking too, like, so yeah, everyone would need to kind of probably show up, like, yeah, with their own like RV or tiny home, just in the sense that, everyone kind of needs to have their own thing at the same time. It needs to be like communal and individualistic, like
Indeed.
coming together.
Indeed. I agree. Yeah. I agree. All right, friend, I'm going to let the next person get in, but I appreciate your call. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, man. Thanks
Take
for
care.
letting me get in.
All right, New Jersey.
Hey, Zach. What's up, man? I really thank you for this post. I really appreciate it, man.
You're welcome.
So, when I was looking into this, I was looking in around Maine and New Hampshire. There's definitely a lot of land up there.
Okay. Cold winters, though.
Yeah, I mean, that's also something that we have to look into and, see about, basically.
Yeah. But actually, I was reading. I was surprised at some of the places they ranked as the top homesteading places. A lot of them were more in the northern U.S. And I was thinking, man, that's funny to me because it seems like a shorter growing season there. So.
Yeah, for sure. And then also, I mean, you were saying before you don't know about basically selling the stuff. I mean, there's definitely a lot of laws now from the FDA and the USDA on like how to process meats and how to process the vegetables to sell them. And I'm sure, the more time that passes, these laws are going to get more stringent as well.
True. That's one of the advantages of Mexico, less regulation. So.
Yeah, and I'm sure that, those laws aren't going to get worse down there. They're going to get even worse here sooner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Maine and New Hampshire, lots of open land. Was there another reason you were thinking that place?
Well, when I was looking into it, I did see there's a couple websites that you could go on, and they basically show you where they have like organic farms and homesteads, and you can go online and basically sign up for these places. And I saw a ton up in New Hampshire, up in Maine. But I definitely agree with you on some aspects. It would be really nice to go to Mexico, and I'm sure you're going to be able to grow stuff year round.
Right. And again, our money and our resources would go a lot further. So to me, that's a big thing.
Thank you for doing this post, and I appreciate your work, and keep up the good work, man.
All right, appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for your contribution. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Yeah, I got to admit, I was looking at the best places for homesteading in the U.S., and so many of them were in the northern part of the United States, which was blowing my mind because I was like, why? I mean, seems like you'd want to be further south with the longer growing season. I mean, if you grow an abundance of food and preserve it, canning and all that, you got a root cellar. You can sustain yourself through the non-growing part of the year. But again, I like the idea of being able to grow year-round, and not having to worry about all that storage and always having just like an abundance of fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, just pick it right from the garden. But yeah, depending on what website you go, I mean, there's a number of different rankings for top homesteading places, and they're all a little bit different. But yeah, if you look, you will see that many have ranked northern states. A lot of them have Oregon right near up at the top, and but there is a lot of agriculture up here, of course, in the Pacific Northwest. But again, I mean, a lot of that wouldn't be possible without the irrigation that goes to the eastern part of the state. So. Yeah, to me, it's just like looking for a place, looking for the right weather, the right climate, a good source of fresh water, and really, to me, those are the top things, because if you got that, if you got a good source of fresh water, and you got the right climate year round, I mean, you're pretty much in the money. And again, for the apprehension of leaving the States and going to Mexico, again, there are advantages to Mexico. Resources go a lot further, less geoengineering, less regulation, and again, I really do think a lot less likely to have the mandatory vax coming on you. And again, all things good and bad. There are downsides to Mexico too. I was reading about securing land, and people are doing it. There's a lot of like rumors about how they'll steal your money, but if you go about it through the right means, if you have a lawyer and a realtor with a track record there, you should be good to go on securing a property and not getting taken to the woodshed. So, if we don't have a lot of other callers today, just people listening, getting ideas, I can peek in on the chat. Let me see if I can get a more intriguing thing to put up on the screen while I look at the chat here. Top states, and different states do have different homesteading laws too. So that was something else I was reading. Like some places, they're not. Some states are not real keen on homesteading, and they got a lot more requirements. Some states they have no regulations against it. As many people can be on the land as they want to. Iowa is up at the top of everybody's list for homesteading. And remember, Iowa 2 years ago had that derecho thing that destroyed so many crops. And again, it's just messed up to think. See, that's what worries me about the U.S. This is exactly why I'm getting more and more keen on the idea of leaving the U.S., because Iowa's where so much of the agriculture and farming is, and we know that derecho thing that they did by the numbers was not an accident. And I still remember when they did it, they said it's going to cause a dip in the food supply 2 years out, because so many of the foods that are being grown at that time, they become part of the food cycle 2 years down the road, because so much of our food becomes processed and packaged. So they were saying that derecho from 2020 is going to have an impact on this year's food supply, which I guess would be September of this year. But again, that's just the problem with the U.S. The geoengineering, the psychopaths ruling over this nation, the fact that they can create a land hurricane and wipe out your farm. And I mean, just imagine all the people that had to go through that. It wasn't just Iowa, but Iowa got hit the hardest, but there's that whole region. I mean, all the hard work, all the labor, and then this crazy windstorm comes through and destroys everything you work for. So a lot of people have Wyoming ranked as a top state, but Wyoming's really cold in the winter. It's an absolutely beautiful place, Wyoming. If you've never been to Wyoming, it's where a lot of the national parks are. Wyoming is probably the most beautiful state in the whole country. I mean, you'd live in a beautiful place, but you have to figure out how to dress like Eskimos in the winter. So, Arkansas, right next door to Alabama. Alabama in recent years has become the fastest growing farming state, and right now they currently have the longest year-round growing season, Alabama, based on the way things have changed. But it seems like a lot of people rank Arkansas as the better place. I think the one downside I read about Arkansas is it has high income tax or something. Yeah, it even says it here. High income tax. Idaho is also a beautiful country, but also cold winters. Oregon, not as cold in the winter, but still a lot colder than Mexico. Southern Oregon's not so bad. I did find a plot of land. I forget exactly how many acres it was. It had a good amount of acreage. Southern Oregon, just north of Medford, a little bit north of the California border. It wasn't too expensive. It was on the western side of the state. But the nice thing about Oregon is you don't have any sales tax, but property taxes are high. So, I really, the more I think about it, though, I really do think, honestly, and that's the thing too. If we end up pooling resources and bringing our resources together to make this happen, we could eventually get locations in multiple spots. So it makes it easier for people based on their geographic region. Somebody who lives on the East Coast, moving to Iowa might seem a lot more reasonable to be part of a community than, say, moving to Oregon or Mexico. And if you already live in Southern California, well, going down to Mexico doesn't seem like that big of a deal. And if you're up in the Pacific Northwest like I am, maybe all these places say Wyoming's a great spot to do it, but God, I fear the cold winter. But you know what I mean? If we can start the first community and, again, like work with the concept of it's about more than us, it's about helping change the world and creating a different path for people to escape the matrix, if you will, escape the system. If what we're really trying to do is not only help ourselves, but help other people have a better life and a better future and change the world through that kind of activity, then in time we could help build up other locations and make it happen in other places so it's more feasible for people to become part of the movement, if you get what I'm saying. So here, let me check in with the chat. Let's see. Sean says, learning from the Amish is a great idea. He's been watching the channel Off Grid with Doug and Stacy on YouTube. So those must be some Amish with some electronics if they got a YouTube channel. Missouri, that's a place that comes up on all the top homesteading lists. Somebody just messaged. They said they want to call in an hour. If the stream's still going, by all means call in. Denise says she likes the Mexico idea. The only reservation is no guns. Yeah. It is the one drawback, but at the same time, I mean, there are a lot of Americans who've gone to Mexico and they've been living there for years and everything's been great and they've never been happier and they haven't had any problem. And, you know, there's other people that say, yeah, the cartel can be a real threat. But honestly, I mean, if we're a modest community, if there's no reason to come take what we have, if we're just growing food, I don't see why we would be targeted. I imagine just like so many other people who've moved there, the experience would be just fine. Art Austin says Missouri. He likes the idea of Missouri. And again, from the research I've been doing, Missouri is another spot that's highly recommended for farmsteading. And again, for people who need a map of the United States, let's just take a look here real quick. Missouri's pretty central. Let's see. Is this going to work out? Can I get that centered in the screen? Oh, it's an Amazon for sale map. Well, I'm sure you can still see where Missouri is. It's the big red one to the right of Kansas, not far from where we just met in Oklahoma. Again, pretty central. That's a nice thing about Missouri, too. Missouri and Arkansas right next to each other, both states that are highly recommended. Tennessee, we just had the caller from. It's right there as well. We got people in the community that are doing a farmstead in Kentucky. And you know what? Since they just messaged a little bit ago, let me see. Let me see if they'll pick up the phone right now. Hold on. Maybe we can hear from some people that are actually doing it right now, how they feel about it.
Hey, bud, give me 1 second. The Bluetooth is on. Hold on 1 second. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
I'm gonna put speakerphone. There we go. So I can move around. How you doing, my friend?
Doing well. I was just calling to pick your brain about homesteading in Kentucky, how it's been, how long you've been doing it.
Well, to go back a little further, I've lived, I'm 47, like I told you. I've lived about 23 years of my adult life off grid. So
half your life.
Yeah, quite a bit of it. And so we purchased our land. This is our third year of, let's see, we got it in 19, so 19 to 20, 20 to 21, 21 to 22. So we're like turning the corner on that 3 year, somewhere in that 3 year area that we've been out here. And so we started actually with 11.85 acres, and then we have a land lease set up, 15-year land lease, and so our goal is to try and pay it off within like 12 years maybe. But so then we wound up picking up a lot next to us, which expanded us to 19 acres. And honestly, Zach, no one's lived on our land since like, I want to say the 1960s.
Huh.
So it was basically untouched and rugged. We've got old logging roads from the 1930s that zigzagged through here, and we wanted to have access to our land, not just to hike on and enjoy, but we have a lot of chanterelles and other types of mushrooms that come up here that we forage. So we wanted to have access to get through our woods. So it took us, between cutting out a bunch of our lumber roads and making them accessible again to, just a foot travel, and cutting out our driveway. I've hauled in 110,000 pounds of gravel.
Wow.
With a shovel, a jeep, and a wheelbarrow.
Wow.
And that in itself took like 16 months,
Sure.
And over the course, because we've been working, and like a year and a half ago, we were actually working like 13-hour days. We were giving kayak tours in a flooded, abandoned limestone mine near here. And so we were giving kayak tours, but we were honestly like two of the best guides that they had, and we were making killer money doing it. And so we worked our asses off and just said, you know what, let's just sock it away, and we'll live in a camper. We're going to have to sacrifice for a while until we're ready to pull the plug and say, now we build, And so, like I say, we're going on our third year out here, and it's a lot of work. It's taken a lot just to make it to where, like I said, we could access our land by foot, to where we could drive vehicles around in places you never would have got them to before, and and then have fun. We built a horseshoe pit, and have camp, we have bonfires, and it's like you have to live your life. You can't just work. So we tried to balance it, and that's it's taken us this long to get this far. And it's an everyday process, my friend. It's an everyday. There's sometimes you might wake up and there's a tree laying across the driveway.
Sure.
So it's a good idea to have chainsaw skills, and that's how we heat ourselves. I've got probably 2 winters of wood just sitting and seasoning up still. And it's just, there's always something that if you look around, it's like a never ending thing. And it's like you can get overwhelmed if you try to bite off too much. And so we've just adopted what we call the turtle philosophy. It's just, we're going to get there, and if our plans get washed out sometimes, and so what, we're going to keep trucking, and eventually we're going to get to where we said we were going to get to when we very first found this place.
Sure, one day at a time. That's the same way I am. So you've been doing all this foundational work, but in the time you've been doing all these other tasks, you've also been growing food and living off that?
Well, no, here's what we have as far as food. Well, put it to you like this. I'm a pretty darn good cook, so we eat all of our food here. We grew a small garden our first year, but it was on a slight on a hill, and a bunch of our roots actually got ripped out by a couple really heavy thunderstorms that came through here. And so we harvested just like a bunch of beans, and I think there was some onions and some other stuff. It wasn't much the first year, but then we were going to do a big garden this year. I've got a seed bank sitting around. I've got, thousands of seeds, but it's like, we finally realized our finances and everything lined up for us this year. And we said, you know what, garden next year, we got to build our home this year. So that's just what our focus is now, because everything else is secondary, because we're adamant about getting a nice structure up for our family. And if we have to add on to it over time, then we will. But we want to have, because we have 2 dogs and a cat, and it's the 5 of us out here.
and we're tucked away, bro. We are we're the most secluded lot that there is out here. We're 1.5 miles deep in the woods from the main road.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, we're back in. We're tucked away, bro.
So,
and
is your goal
go
to
ahead.
get other people to join your community and help out with the tasks?
Well, our goal, we've tossed that idea around. It would have to be someone that was as dedicated to something as we are, you know, and it would have to be someone we trusted wholeheartedly and that had the funds to come in and do something like that. But we're more or less kind of making this more of like a sanctuary, to be honest with you, because we understand how tough it is for a lot of people in the world. And when we have people that do come here, they always walk away with a good feeling, and just that's where we're at with it right now. There is a large farm that's for sale next door to us, and I want to say it's like 125 acres, something like that. And those people are as nice as can be. They let us use part of their land like it's ours. I mean, it's like they're great neighbors, and their house is like a mile away from here. They're way on the other side of their property. But it's like, you know, our goal is to get more self-sufficient, to get the food in the ground, to get to where we don't have to go to the supermarket as much. I'm a really good shot, but I've never taken a deer down, but I know I could, and I never wanted to do it because I want someone there with me that has the experience of skinning and preserving and all that stuff.
Sure.
So I learn best hands-on with someone that can show me why and how things are done, you know?
Right.
So, yeah, you know, our end goal, our ultimate goal was just to have a slice of peace out of all the chaos of the bullshit of the world.
Sure.
And just be like, hey, at least this place is secure. This corner of the world right here is secure, and it's got love and everything right going behind it. And I mean, we've got, I want to say we've got about 8 months of dog and cat food and rice and beans and all kinds of storable foods. We've got hundreds of pounds of food laying around just in case the shit just really just goes nuts. And, you know, it's just, I don't want my family to suffer when we had every reason and ability to be prepared, you know?
Right. What are your property taxes there?
It's nil. Like right now, we don't have to pay any taxes with the way that our land lease is set up. Once we get the deed in our name, then like from these 19 acres, like see, we got 19 acres for $48,000, and that's a pretty good deal. It's like $23.75 an acre.
Yeah.
And so the land prices are great, but they're going up rapidly because this place is starting to boom. But they're never going to be able to make this place like Gatlinburg or Smoky Mountains, Tennessee, anything like that, because they don't want that much tourism here. They don't want to get that built up. So like our taxes would probably on our land, it would probably be I think yearly like $400 or something.
Yeah, not bad at all.
It's ridiculous. It's like, you know, like $38 a month or something. You know, it's not anything crazy.
Okay.
So that's pretty good because, I mean, once we get the deed in our hands, it's like we don't have any bills. You know what I'm saying? Like we're living, you know, off the grid completely. Like we started in a tent, bro. I was living with her. She and I met in Vermont 5 years ago, and fell in love. And then I was like, well, look, my mom's sick in Kentucky. I've got to go back home. And do you want to stay with me? And she did. She came with me and uprooted her life and came. And we were living in Louisville with a friend for about a year. And you ought to look up the Red River Gorge. That we live about 15 miles from the Red River Gorge, and it is one of the coolest places on the East Coast, man. It's rock climbers come literally from Japan, Sweden, Colorado, everywhere to come bounce on the rocks in Kentucky.
Okay.
And so, yeah, Red River Gorge is absolutely beautiful. There's over 100 arches out there, like, you know, granite and sandstone arches. Pretty neat. And so we didn't want to be too close to all that action because we know it's booming, so we wanted to be in the area. And I took her out to the gorge when we were living in Louisville, and she fell in love with it immediately. And I just looked at her. I said, I know of a person that we can go buy land from for a decent price for a land lease, because I knew about this person doing this back in 2014. And so we talked about it, and then, we said, you know what, screw this. Because we could just see the world collapsing even back then. And I was just like, you know what, let's go get some land, girl. Let's go. They're not making no land, and ain't ever going to get no cheaper. I was like, let's go get some land. And I looked at her, I said, you want to sacrifice and learn how to live off grid and you want to build a homestead? And her eyes got big, and she thought about it. And I was like, look, it's going to be a lot of sacrifice, a lot of hard work. It's going to be a lot of surprises that we can't see. It's going to be a learning process, and she was up for it. And we started with $3,000, a Jeep, 95 Honda Accord, and a very large tent. And we said, let's go.
And you made it work. So it's 3 years later, and how much food are you growing off that land that you live off of right now?
The food, like I said, since we're building right now, Zach, we've had to put the big garden we wanted to do this year. We're gonna have to put it on the burner for next year, because this is so much work to build something, man. To treat the wood yourself, to haul it back in the woods where we're building. I mean, just that itself, it takes our 2 Jeeps to go to the sawmill lumber and then strap it on top and put it in the Jeeps and get it all down here into the mountains. You know what I'm saying? It's such a huge process. So I just looked at her. I was so ready, because I prepped my garden. I prepped it. And then it was like, it became a reality where we were like, okay, everything drops right now. We're building. And that's basically the attitude I think you have to have, because otherwise, when the surprises and things don't go your way, you anticipated being in your house in 3 months, and all of a sudden it's 4 and 5 months or whatever. If you have too much going on, you're just never going to get there.
Okay.
So we have to get, but we are getting a super garden next year. My wife has been researching this guy that has what he calls the apocalypse garden, if you've ever heard of that.
I haven't. I'll have to look it up. Apocalypse garden.
Yeah.
So is the majority of your food right now coming from grocery stores or farmers markets, or how's that working out?
Mostly we go to either Kroger or the Save-A-Lot.
Okay.
And then they do have farmers markets in town. I think it's once or twice a week. And then we get, like I said, we have like thousands of these chanterelles, so we literally live off of our chanterelle mushrooms for free, and we just add them to different things, different dishes that we want to do, and sometimes we just just cook up a big batch of them, throw them on some pasta, and call it good. But
there must be some elevation there then, right? Because those usually grow up like in the hills off the logging trail. So what's the elevation where you are?
We're around, I want to say we're around 1,000 feet.
Okay.
Maybe 1,500 somewhere, because these mountains are very, very old, and so they're made mostly of sandstone and granite. So all the sandstone just withered away over the millions of years.
I see. Okay, well, I mean, I understand that homesteading is it's a difficult, continuous task. So you're explaining that, right?
It's always more than you realize too. That's what we've kind of figured out. But you have to embrace the idea that things have to be fluid. They have to be flexible. And that's another thing too. You got to really maintain your body doing this. You can't. My wife is like all excited. She's like, "Tell Zach I said hi."
Hello.
But you got to maintain your physical and your spiritual and mental capabilities, man, because it's like if you're going to be, especially if you're as isolated as we are, like if I go out there playing with the chainsaw, my head isn't right, and she's at work, I could bleed out in the backwoods somewhere.
Oh, of course.
You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
It's like you have to so it's like you have to really mind yourself, and we have fun, we cut up and everything, but it's like, to me, my philosophy is basically I make sure that I feel like I got stuff done here every day, and that we're making progress and we're not backsliding. And as long as I think you continue to make progress, then when the things do go that come up, you know, like surprises and stuff, it's not that big of a blow. And if you're just trying to keep a simple plan, then the answers are usually easily found, you know?
Right. Yeah. I pretty much work with the same philosophy. So just like writing a book, but, okay. Well, that's great.
Our goal is to be quite self-sufficient out here. I just, you know, after listening to you in the past month, you know, hearing you talk about wanting to, you know, get into that idea, it just dawned on me. I started smiling. I was working, doing something. I was like, oh, you got to come out here, bro. I was like, you got to see what it's all about, man. And like, if you're going to go digging yourself in the dirt, man, you might want to hang out with somebody that's been living off grid for a long time.
Indeed. Well, this is my big pitch in 2015, and it never happened. But I was saying back then that we got to create a community. We got to have a source of food, because I said bad stuff is on the horizon. I knew 2020 things were going to start to get real hairy. So.
Well, see, the thing is that I envisioned, because we were just listening to you like about an hour or so ago from yesterday's broadcast, and I was waiting for you to say it, and you did. And it was basically the idea of having networked communities, like not just like in local areas, but across states and whatnot. So it's like, say, if other people do start homesteading more and building their communal spots and whatnot, it can be something of a resource where, okay, well, you know, if we can go over to Missouri and go check out their place, we might learn something from these people for a few days, or, you know, and networking people, and to where also, like, you might have a vacation spot with some people that you know and be like, oh, let's go hang out with our friends in Kentucky, you know?
Exactly.
And, like, the next thing you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't have to be so much of a permanency, in my opinion, as it can be something that is just worked with and incorporated through networks.
Exactly. And if something got bad in one region of the country and you have a network, then it's like, well, you know what? We can go to our connection here and help them out and relocate there. So.
Yeah, that's kind of what I see as like outposts across the country, kind of, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think we've got to start working towards that. I think it's going to be essential to our quality of life going forward. I mean, you guys got the right idea getting outside of the matrix, so.
I've lived outside of it most of my life, brother. What I did was, when I was 23, I found out I was at Jazz Fest in New Orleans. And, I mean, I've traveled a lot, bro. I mean, I've been to 13 other countries besides this one, and I've done, like, 43 states throughout America. And it's like I've been a lot of places, a lot of people, a lot of times, a lot of events and experiences. And I was down in Jazz Fest in 96, and I met this guy who told me about how to mine quartz crystal in Arkansas, and he told me who to go talk to. So I went and found this guy. This before I ever saw a cell phone, you know what I'm saying? And I went and found this guy in Mount Ida, Arkansas, and I became good friends with him and his family, and I started mining quartz crystal in Arkansas in an abandoned mine that they haven't dynamited in since the 40s. And so I got really good at that, and I started building a network of jewelers across the country. And I had probably 200 people, and what I did is I slept in the national forests with my dog at the time. You know, if I had a dog, if I had my guitar, whatever I had, I'd sleep rent-free in the national forest across the country and go service the jewelers and bring them deals on quartz crystal they could never get anywhere else, that weren't washed off with harsh chemicals and all this stuff. Like, you know, I got really into it, and that's what I did for, gosh, like 18, 20 years, for a long time, man. And that's where I learned how to just live simply and not feel like I needed much, because everything I had going for me was enough for me, and I just enjoyed my simplicity and my freedom.
Sure.
And so but then I started playing music, like, you know, in cafes and bars and coffee houses and busking on street corners. And I've played with, I had an offer. You probably heard of Bonnaroo before in Tennessee, the big music fest that they do every year.
Okay.
For 20 years in Tennessee. I had an offer to be in a band to play in that, you know, a long time ago, and I actually turned it down, and I'm actually really glad I did, to be truthful, because I think my life would have turned out a lot differently.
Sure.
But yeah, you know, getting as close to self-sufficiency is probably going to be on the plate next year, as far as gardening. And I mean, you got to understand, it's just taken so much just to make our place pretty and clean it out, make it accessible. And I mean, it's been, 60 years since anybody's done anything here.
Sure.
So, I mean, you're talking 4-foot weeds and rattlesnakes and all kinds of shit.
How much of your property is woods and how much of it is suitable for farmland?
If we took down some more small swaths of trees, we could, the spot that we have right now for our gardening spot is, I want to say it's about 25 foot squared. So, that's what, 500 square feet or something?
Okay.
That's not small.
No, you can grow a lot of food there.
But it's not, it's not small, and it's got a great location. It's got a southwest facing hill slope right there. It's a great location for a garden.
Okay.
But I went ahead and turned it up, and I was so excited. I was like, baby, we're gonna have a good old garden. And then things kind of just took an upward trend for us, and I was like, you know what? I'm thinking of doing these calculations, and I think we can build our home.
Sure.
And so that just became the main goal, was just like, you know what, let's make ourselves a home, and if we have to add on to it in the future, then we will. It's just, let's just keep it basic and make it happen.
Indeed.
And I tell you, I'm the reason why I found you, Zach, is because I've been telling some of my best friends. I got friends that I am Jesuit educated. I went to St. Xavier High School in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay.
And so my two best friends, we met when we were freshmen in high school. We're still friends for 32 years, still best friends. And they've been out here to my property, and they love it. And so I've been telling them for probably 15 freaking years now that the damn Super Bowl's rigged, and like other games I'd seen on bar TVs or whatever. I'm like, that's bullshit. Like, that's rigged. There's no way that happened. Like, that's bullshit. And freaking, I've been telling them this at like every Super Bowl, and finally I watched this one, and because I was born in Cincinnati, and I was like, all right, so the Bengals are in. I'll be happy for the people of Cincy. Why not? And I watched the game, and I saw the very end of it and whatnot, and I was like, there it goes again. I was like, that whole ending wind down was so scripted and jacked up, and freaking Burrow looked like a moron. He
right.
was like, I told my one buddy, I said, man, Burrow needs some better acting lessons. That was bullshit. I could see right through it.
Right. Yeah. missed wide open
like,
receivers. Exactly. No penalties all game, and then all of a sudden 1,000 penalty flags at the end. It's like they want people to see that it's rigged. It's like they're making fun of them. So.
Yeah, it's bad. And like I talked to him about you. I was like, man, you got to check this guy I just found, because all I did was type in rigged Super Bowl 56, and so then this guy came up, and I think he had been posting, I think, with Truth Frequency Radio or something. I found this guy, a black man, that's mentioned your name, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna look into this Zach Hubbard guy, and I started listening to you. I was like, holy shit! I was like, listen to this motherfucker right here. I was like, this guy don't give a shit. Like, he's just laying it out there. And I was like, I'm listening to you for weeks on end. I'm like, damn, somebody drove a freaking car through your house, and they suspend you all the damn time. Freaking everybody trying to jack with you. I was just like, damn. I was like, this guy's just still going, though. I was like, that's good to see. There's somebody solid that's on, out there on a platform. Like, I'm a computer retard, man. There's nothing I could ever learn to do like, what you're doing. And I'm good to get on YouTube, man. But it's like I was kind of blown away for a minute. It's like, wow, like, this guy obviously cares, and he's got a good message, and he's reaching out to people. And then it just kind of things started clicking, and then I started having my wife. I was like, Christina, you got to check this guy out. And then we listened to you for a while, and then she's like, yeah, I kind of feel like he's my friend already. I said, yeah. I kind of get that feeling that you could talk to him and he'd actually be real. And, and I apologize for being so goofy the other day on the phone. I was just shocked that you actually picked that line up. And then you told me, like, I'm about to go on air. And I'm like, all right, well, let me spit this out real fast.
Well, I'm glad you did.
But,
I mean, your timing's good because it's just more inspiration. But yeah, what you're doing is what I've been talking about doing for a long time, and I just realized it has to happen. I mean, it has to happen, or else you're just a slave to the matrix, and it's getting uglier by the day. So anyhow, we will be in
yeah,
touch. And I look forward to the progress. And if I could give you any inspiration, you might want to hurry up on that garden. I mean, they did say 2 years ago that the derecho thing that went through the Midwest was going to cause food problems later this year. So you might be grateful if you have that garden going. So.
well, we might throw a few seeds in there and see what comes up. It's just having to take care of a 500 square, that's pretty big.
Yeah, I hear you.
But I told him, and we do have hundreds of pounds of stored food.
Well, that's good.
I mean, we're going to be eating mushrooms for the next 3 months.
That's true too. You have that. That's nice that you have that right there. I mean, mushrooms are a great healthy food too. So.
Well, and we've got blackberries all over here. We've got all kinds of edible plants around here, man. We just have to keep on investigating and. Excuse me. And we have to keep pushing and finding the knowledge as we get to it, as we acquire it and then putting it to work. And, right now it's just like I said, everything just kind of had to drop, man. It's just like, you know what? We've been talking about building. We can do it. Let's just build, man. Let's just get this done with. Because It's a lot of work, bro.
I get it. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing how much gravel you said you hauled. Well, I really appreciate you sharing all that with me, and I'll stay in touch, and I look forward to the progress. And when I do the road trip, I'd love to come by and check it out. So thank you.
We'd give you a big old hug and say, you made it home, baby. And come off the road and put your feet up, man, and relax. I'll cook for you, man. We got a nice big grill. I'll cook really great food for you. You ain't got to spend a penny. You come here, man. You're our southern hospitable guest, man. We will be honored to have you here and show you a good time. And we'll take care of you and put you out back on the road with a smile on your face, man.
Well, thank you so much. I look forward to that. Thank you, friend. You have a good day.
All right, brother. Be safe and keep up the work. We love you, man. All right? Good job.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you. Will do. Take care.
Later.
619?
Yeah, man. I just want to kind of piggyback off the last caller. I kind of envy him, the fact that he has land, you know what I'm saying? And the fact that he's right. These land prices are going up. I had moved to Georgia in 2017. And, I mean, you could have got 10 acres out here, 10 to 15 acres out here for $50,000. Now, that's definitely a little different. But about him living off the grid, I started living off the grid, say, about 15 years ago, man. I started in my car. Yeah. I started living in my car, my guy.
Sure.
When Obama became president, I saw this. I kept telling people, and people look at me crazy. I said, guys, this is only going to get worse. This is about to get worse. I want to live off the grid. So I started living in my car, and then, just 5 years ago, I started thinking, it's time to look for some land. Just buy land and start growing your own food. And, even if you have to go out there with a tent and live in a tent for a while, that's fine. It's going to be work. It's going to be sacrifice, but we'll all be at peace. You know what I mean? And that's worth everything in the world. It's just to be at peace because we already know what's coming down the pipeline. I follow a guy on YouTube named Pastor Dial. He has 12 communities, and they're all pretty much down south. He has Kentucky, he has Tennessee, he has Georgia, he has Alabama, on huge acres of land, and they're really doing it. He shows on YouTube. He shows his greenhouses. He shows raised beds, and that's what I'm learning, actually. Like you said earlier, you go on YouTube, you see what they're doing, you kind of just copy it. Instead of going into the ground, they're doing raised beds. They have corn they grow. They have their own cattle and lambs and sheep that they raise. And they butcher their own chickens. They have a group of community people come out. Everybody's working to pluck the chickens and they put it in their freezer and they store it and they hunt for deer. I would advise to check him out too. I've been on him for some years now. Of course, he's a Hebrew Israelite. Of course, he's spiritual, but he gives a lot of ideas. He's been telling people to get out of the population system centers, which are the cities, and go out to the rural area and live off the land. So that's just the idea for us. I honestly think as a community, we can do it. It's going to take sacrifice, but that sacrifice is going to, in the long run, it's going to equal happiness. We're not happy right now because we know what's happening. We know the bullshit that's getting ready to come. We have to deal with it on the daily. And we want our next door neighbor to understand what we understand. of course, we've been studying this stuff I've been following your work for the last 6 years, and studying it 6 years, and I'm getting better and better. We're all growing as a community, and we're finally seeing the writing on the wall, and it's time, man. I mean, I'm saying, Mexico's not out of the picture. I would look more so of the Sun Belt states, from like Texas on, the South, maybe Midwest. I know Kentucky probably has some real cheap land right now because, they have those tornadoes. So, nobody's scared. Everybody's scared to go there because they're having tornadoes. But if you find a good area where there's not tornadoes that really hit that bad, and find some cheap land, I think it can be done. I don't even think, I know it can be done, especially if we come as a community. Just start with the land, maybe charge everyone who comes on the land maybe $500 a month. Everybody has a job to do. We all have to get out there and do our job in the garden. We have to get out there and hunt. You have a security team. I'm all for the security team. I have lots of guns.
Hold on, I got to pause real quick. When you said charge people $500 a month, why? Why if you've secured the land, why charge the fee?
To keep the land up, because we're going to need equipment. We're going to need, it's going to cost to run your water. It's going to cost for electricity. I'm not sure how much he charges his people. I just know he has 12 communities, and they live on this land. And and his main message is you don't have a mortgage. You live on this land, you work. You don't have a mortgage, and they build their houses out of brick, not wood, because, wood is, it can blow down. Brick is a little more sturdier.
Sure.
And I'm not sure exactly how much, but I'm thinking, imagine if you had a community of 100 people who came and lived, drop your mobile home, your modular home on it, nothing too big, and you have your own little space. Everybody worked in the garden. Everybody plowed. Everybody helped out, and as a community, we were just a community that rocked on, and not necessarily, that was just a number I just threw off the top of my head, $500, but imagine if it was $500 a month, everybody came out, and that's to keep the land up, with the equipment, the gasoline to run the stuff, the water bills, just kind of like an idea, of course, it takes care of the property tax, the more land that you get. And I'm saying the ideal spot for this would be the southern states, the Sun Belt states, southern states, maybe even Midwest, like you said, Wyoming, how peaceful it would be just to be on your own land, just to be at peace. I live in Marietta, Georgia right now. I know my number shows up at 619 San Diego. I used to live out there. I'm in Georgia right now, in Marietta, and I hate the city. I hate this place. But when I was here in 2017, man, the land out here is plentiful, and it's green, and the weather is pretty good. Like you said, Alabama would be an ideal spot too. I've been to Alabama a few times. Their weather is insane. I mean, they'll get 4 different weathers in a day. No joke. They'll get a storm in a day, rain. The sun will be out for like 2 hours, and then it'll be cold. And it's like, what the hell? But
Georgia's like Oklahoma. That's how Oklahoma was.
Right. Of course, we have 4 seasons, so of course you start growing heavily in the spring, in the summertime, and then in the fall things start wiltering down, and of course winter things die. But that's when your greenhouses are still booming. You have your greenhouses. I mean, you got to find his channel. His channel is dope. He shows the blueberries, the greens, the blackberries, the cabbage, everything that he grows in his greenhouses. When it's wintertime, everything they grow outdoors. It's pretty good, So there's just kind of like an idea, and I'm all for it, man. Just let me know. Like I said, I'll be a part of the security team because we're going to need that. They're going to try to mess with what's going on because that's what Agenda 21 is for. They want everybody in the city to keep track on everybody, facial recognition, like we've been talking the last week. If you jaywalk, you're going to have to pay. It's going to automatically get fined. That's why I kept telling people 2 years ago, I said, why are all these banks pushing for people, Chime and Vero, and they were pushing hard. They knew something was coming. They started giving out a lot of money when COVID happened, and they wanted to get your money. And I said, dude, they're pushing this hard. CashApp, this PayPal's been out forever, but all of a sudden, this CashApp is just a thing. And I'm like, that shit's for ghetto people. I mean, I know everybody uses CashApp, but I'm like, I don't fuck with CashApp. I don't even fuck with banks that that much. You know what I'm saying?
Well, they're just getting people more and more used to doing everything electronic. I noticed a few years back, banks started giving you incentives if you got a direct deposit. And I was like, why are they paying you to do direct deposit? And again, it's because then they're not dealing with cash. They just want everything electronic. So.
Yeah, I agree. I saw the writing on the wall 2 years ago. I said, all these banks are really pushing. They must get ready to do something. They really want everybody. Oh, and then the dumbest stuff was, when COVID first started, and I don't eat a lot of fast food. I don't eat fast food at all. But at that time, everything was just crazy, and people were stressing out. So I was like, okay, let me go to, Carl's Jr. to get, some fries or something. I go inside, and they're talking about there's a change shortage. Can you pay with your card? And I knew right then and there, okay, this is it right here. This is I said, you know what? I don't even want your fries. I'm out.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So, that's just the idea for the community. I think it can happen, especially after OKC. I didn't get to call in on Wednesday night, but I wanted to call in on Wednesday night, man, and say how great and inspiring OKC was. I mean, I felt so bad because when you were filming it, when it was live, I just immediately dropped everything. I was like, I should be there right now. I don't know why I am not in the OKC. I don't know why I didn't plan to drive out there and to support that. And you've had other in the past, your other pounding pavement, but OKC was extremely inspiring, man. That everyone gathered around you when you sat there and you talked to the Jesuit guy. And he let you talk, and you explain to him in a calm voice. See, that's the problem. Some people are intimidated by you, are scared of you because they think you're just going to fly off the handles. No, you simply explained exactly what you knew, and he knew exactly what you were talking about because he understood how you made it plain. You made it simple for a second grader to understand exactly what you were saying. And I was just like, oh my God, he is talking to a Jesuit, Catholic Jesuit, in the flesh, and he's explaining to him what this is, what's going on, and he's educating this guy who's probably been a Jesuit since his whole life. I was extremely inspired by that, man. Your live stream got cut off when the guy showed his bullets. You know what I mean? Because they don't like when people handle firearms and bullets and stuff live. So that's why all the trolls in the comments was like, "Oh, that's a fake gun. That's a fake gun. Show us that's a real gun." He didn't pick his gun up, but he picked the magazine up with the bullets, and that's when your thing went shut off. I was like, damn it, man! But you guys did a great job in OKC, man. OKC, I'm thinking about another one that you might want to do. I think OKC should be yearly, New York should be yearly, but since I'm here in Atlanta and I just came out of this little diner place, they have the 1996 Atlanta Olympics.
Bombing.
And I'm like, oh, God, yeah. I said, that would be a good one. Come down here and educate people on how that was just completely planned and scripted and, that would be awesome, man. But as far as the community goes, I'm all for it, man. I'm all for it. There's communities out here that are already doing it, big communities too, that start off with 10 people and they're up to 100 people, and people are completely happy with what's going on. Oregon is not out of the mix too. I've been on the West Coast my entire life. Oregon, the land still being bought up for? Because, they had a big weed business going on over in the West Coast. So back in the day, back in like 2010, when they started to make the weed, legal in California, I heard a lot of people were going to Oregon and Washington to buy up the land so they can grow weed out there. And that was like federal government, like that. You know what I mean? That was just a rumor I heard. I'm not sure to confirm it. So I'm not sure as far as Oregon goes. How's the land look at that? Because Oregon is green too. It's really green. The weather's pretty good year round, right? And it rains a lot there too. So your gardens would be plentiful of water.
Right.
Or even Washington State. So.
Well, that definitely happened. I'm not sure it's still going on. Just to answer your question, I'm not sure it's still going on because there got to be so much competition that it drove the price down so far that there wasn't really any profit in doing it, and there was an abundant. I mean, there was like all this weed just becoming moldy because you couldn't even sell it. There was so much. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. And when we do start this community, because I think we're going to start it. Right now, we're just laying the foundation. We're working on just talking about it. Let's get the land, and we can make an income. We can have income coming in with trading, just like the last caller said. He mined the quartz, stones. We can. People want to buy fresh food. They don't want to go to the grocery store and buy this garbage, GMO crap. So we can have a farmer's market and sell things to people who want to come out and, get corn and raise livestock and do it that way and have income coming in. And of course, we have our YouTube channels are showing how people are dying for this right now because there's people who know exactly what's coming down the pipeline. I think everybody's trying to get back on track as far as after COVID-19, and they're trying to make it do what it do as far as getting a steady job, and getting some funds coming in. But people are really, really yearning for this type of information on how to farm and how to do this, how to do this stuff. And that's just the idea that just pops up in my head as far as us starting the community in general. Let's first start with a location. Make sure it's at least 10 acres, 20 acres, and everybody's gonna have to work. So don't think you're gonna come there and just not do anything. We're gonna have to work, guys. We're gonna have to get our hands dirty. We're gonna have to dig in the soil. And like you said, I'm an outdoors person anyways. I love being outdoors. I love the sun. I come from San Diego. We were outside all the time because the weather was so great. Not so much here in Georgia because it's always gloomy and so it's not that great out here, but I'm all about getting my hands in the soil, fishing, hunting. We can hunt deer. It's out there for us for the taking. The time is now. We did the work. We're educating people. And we're going to always continue to educate. Because there's going to be new crap that's coming up. But now it's time for the community to happen. If everybody pitched in, like you said, everybody pitched in $1. I'm on the, of course I'm on the live stream because I'm on the Patreon, but, everybody just pitched in, $1 for the work. We could start with just, a million people pitching $1 a month. That's $1 million. We could purchase land and go and you know what I mean? So
yeah, I wish people would get behind it because we really could do it and start a real movement and create a lot of opportunity for people. So.
Right. Yeah, and I think pounding pavement is the key because
it is
the YouTube censorship. The censorship is so hard. Dude, your channel, they won't let your channel grow. Your channel should be at 1 million because people want to know. Wait, COVID happened. What is this? What's going on? Half the people probably couldn't even find your channel because YouTube is just suppressing. I have a gun channel. I'm only at 611. It's been like 3 to 4 years, but people are like, dude, you have a YouTube channel? Like, yeah, dude, get into it. Oh, snap. There's a car on fire. Oh, wow. Oh, okay, Zach, I'm in traffic and there's a car on fire that just got into a car accident.
Well, be careful out there. Yeah, people are driving crazy.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Yep.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. You have a good day. All right. Well, so far, everybody who's called in is more about the community being in the U.S., and that makes sense. We're here in the U.S. Mexico, it's like Sweet Lady. Sweet Lady's not from the U.S. She's from Burma, but she even picks up on that negative Mexico buzz. So many people have so many negative perceptions about Mexico. I mean, I've been to Mexico a number of times in my life. I've never had a problem there. The police are a little bit suspect. But again, the one thing, just to stand up for Mexico one more time, is resources go a lot further, and again, less geoengineering and long growing season. 817.
Hey, Zach. I got a couple interesting things, hopefully, for this conversation. I live in Texas. I'm born and raised in Texas, but my dad moved to Cancun in the Yucatan when I was 8. So I spent every summer for about 2.5 months for 10 years in that area, traveling and doing all kind of stuff. So just kind of the vibe of Merida, where you were talking about specifically, is that it's a very safe place. Like the police force and like the high level kind of military type people in the police force, as well as a lot of the crime lords who are more public about what they do, their families live in Merida. So it's kind of like a little bit of a bubble where the colleges are safe and nice, and some of the nicer churches, and a lot of the just kind of normal everyday life people go there to live there because it's much more peaceful than many other parts of Mexico.
Okay.
So that's just an interesting concept about that particular area. It is something that you will be noticed right away because there's a lot of attention on making it safe by the powers that be. And there's a lot of parts of Mexico that they purposefully don't care to make safe. They just kind of let whatever go happen. But specifically that area and proximity to Cancun and Playa del Carmen and a lot of the other kind of touristy areas nearby does help kind of improve it. So it does get like some tourism and whatnot. So it's a pretty nice place to live for sure, but it's very watched as well for places in Mexico. And like when I was there, I had this is random, but I had pink hair as just a fun thing. And the police pulled over on the side of the road while I was just walking down the side of the road to take a photo. They were just shocked, like, wow, there's a tall white guy with pink hair on the side of the road. Well, that's so uncommon. So they just pulled over and took a photo with their phones and then got back in their car and took off. So it's this interesting place when you go there. Very safe, but you also feel kind of this sense that everybody's kind of walking on thin ice just to keep that vibe.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I imagine
there.
if you were a community and you weren't causing any problems, and I imagine it would be okay. So
totally. But any help that you need from the environment, I guess, while you're setting things up, and the ability to buy tools and buy things that you need along the way that you can't necessarily fashion for yourself. It is a pretty safe spot. You're gonna, I guess, find a lot of people that speak English, and ultimately it's not tourism driven or whatever, like most of the rest of the Yucatan. So you don't have problems of I guess it's a college town is what I'm trying to get at. It feels like this tucked away thing that has purpose, and it's kind of kept clean from maybe the bigger cities around it that are a lot more bar heavy and action packed.
Sure.
And Cancun, anywhere outside of Cancun is also just really nice, almost identical climate, but it's close to the beach. It's really jungly, I guess is the best way to put it. So you have a lot of opportunity to grow food that we clearly can't grow here in the States for the most part. And it's maybe less exposed. Mérida is a little more, just a little less lush, where the land you find is going to be more farmland and stuff like you found, which is kind of like the scattered trees and whatnot. But if you buy land over closer to Cancun, you're probably going to find that you have to like cut your way through the jungle to build, which gives you a lot more resources along the way with wood and other stuff, but it does take more effort to pave your way through, if you will. But that is a pretty cool region for sure. Definitely a lot of opportunity being that close to the ocean and having all the amenities that tourism and other things bring to Cancun. You have access to an international audience and an airport and all that kind of stuff with just a couple of hours.
Right. Indeed. So yeah, there's a lot of advantages to that spot. And again, it's very affordable there too. So to me, that's a big thing.
For sure. I have a friend who grew up there, and he got a college degree as a nutritionist. And so he has a small nutritionist business, and he's living there now too. So if you, for whatever reason, want to connect with somebody who's there that could go talk to somebody, if you, for whatever, you want to talk to a developer who's got an office out there. He's somebody I've known over 20 years and very trustworthy guy, and super cool.
And he hasn't had any problems living there.
On the ground.
He hasn't had any problems living there.
Nope. Went to college there as well. He had the opportunity to go anywhere in Mexico and decided to stay there. Again, it's really safe. So if you kind of want a more chill life and you're not trying to go to the bars and be in that kind of business life of Mexico City and all that kind of stuff, Merida is a pretty significant place to go because you have the big, nice colleges, tons of restaurants, tons of family homes, good police force, all that kind of stuff, which is rare to find all in one spot in a city in Mexico.
Okay. And you said the name of that specific city is what again?
Merida.
Okay. Yeah, and that's right there in the Yucatan Peninsula.
Merida.
Yeah, I saw that. Okay.
I think that there's a third state. Basically, Quintana Roo is where Cancun is. That's one state. And then there's Merida, and then there's Campeche. And those are like the three. They're like in a triangle at the tip. And so, yeah, those are the three that are on the Yucatan Peninsula.
Good to know.
But Merida is, the best one. But ultimately, the idea is they do have, you have a lot of access to a lot of stuff, which is pretty cool. And that's where you're going to find a lot of Mayan ruins and all that kind of stuff, too, which is cool for, I guess, once everything gets set up and people want to explore.
Sure.
It's cool to have legit 1,000-year-old ruins to go check out.
Sure, indeed. Some culture, history.
And I'm in Texas right now. I'm in North Texas, but I definitely would say South Texas is a pretty good spot to look if people want to stay in the U.S. There's a lot of river access, and the oversight of the government is way less than other places that I've been in the U.S.
Okay.
And it's just much more comfortable, I guess. If you're in the city, it's similar to most cities, but being in the country, you don't really interact with or deal with people you don't want to.
Okay, that's good to know. So southern Texas. What's the rainfall like
San
there?
Antonio region, New Braunfels, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. I suppose they have irrigation even if there's not that much rainfall. So.
Totally. And there's rivers all over that part of Texas.
Sure. So plenty of water.
So if you buy in 100 acres, there's a good chance you're going to be near a river or have river access.
Okay. All right. That's a good tip too. Southern Texas. All right, friend. Well, I appreciate the feedback and the information. Thank you.
For sure.
All right. Yeah,
you
have a good one. Take care. All right. Just north of Seattle. What's going on, Snohomish?
Oh, hey, Zach. You picked up.
Yeah, how you doing?
Pretty good. I'm stepping out of the room here. I hope I don't lose your call. I got sometimes get a spotty signal. I'm glad I got a hold of you right now because you were just talking about the Mexico thing. So I don't know if you ever watched Jeff Berwick at all, but he lives down there and he's married to a Mexican woman, and he talks about this a lot. So it would be definitely a good resource, at least, just to get a conversation going with him or somehow get with him. And another thing about Jeff, he got sick of YouTube and he created his own platform for video streaming. It's called Dollar Vigilante TV. And you had all these problems, when you went to Oklahoma City with your live streaming. That maybe we can get on there because he doesn't give anybody any hassles. He's got some people that, in my opinion, you don't necessarily want to get mixed up with, but on the other hand, they're considered part of the truth community. They're just, another content creator too. So just because you're on the platform doesn't mean anything, really, right?
Right. Yeah, I've actually reached out to him before. He's never responded to me, so I don't know if he doesn't like my work or what, but I know who he is.
He's brought up Gematria multiple times that I've heard him, and I don't, I've listened a fair bit, but I'm not like every single, waiting for every new video or anything like that,
what part of Mexico is he in?
What's that? Right now? Well, he talks a lot about Puerto Vallarta.
Okay.
And he does the Anarchapulco.
Right.
That event.
Right.
Yeah, and so Max Egan left Australia, and Jeff put him up for a few months, and kind of got him set up, and he's in Mexico now.
Okay. Is he living off the land, or is he just living in Mexico?
That's another interesting thing. So because of everything getting worse, he's felt the squeeze too, and he's one of these Bitcoin billionaire guys, So he's got all this cash, and it's no big deal how he spends it. But he bought a big chunk of land. He says 200 people were on the crew working on this whatever fortress he's building. Where he's going to have his whole family and his friends and whatever worker people and growing all their own food and whatever. He's got this big dream, but I mean, he'll probably accomplish most of it. He's got the cash to do it. But
Okay.
I mean, his wife has connections too, so getting information from him would probably come as well through her. As far as good places to be and stuff like that.
Okay, I'll try to link up with him as well, and I'll reach out to him again because maybe he'd be a good person to network with since he's already down there and kind of on a similar path. So.
Yeah, and he also has a couple of, I think there's maybe business partnerships involved, but colleagues for sure that have done other projects similar kind of to what, maybe not exactly what you've been talking about, like kind of more of a, I don't know. I mean, I'd be worried that we're not quite libertarian enough about that from what I caught so far of the program today. But you know what I'm saying? A little bit too communal. That doesn't necessarily work so good. Just everybody's going to work. Well, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Think about the story about the pilgrims when they arrived, and then they finally decided to, get a little more like self-reliant toward your own family and quit. Everybody had to pitch in, and you get to keep what you make and that kind of stuff. So then it turned around, and they actually started to make something out of it.
Sure.
But that's what they tell us. Anyway.
Well, I know what happens in groups. There's a lot of people that try not to pull their own weight and try to just freeloaders. I mean, it is a problem. So.
Yeah. So it needs some kind of a merit-based kind of setup. But anyways, Jeff has these couple people that have made similar, more business-type, structured setups. Like I think they made a development on a beach somewhere, like Nicaragua or something like that. And there's one other one that he's mentioned. I can't remember, but in a similar location, Central America, something like that, Costa Rica maybe.
Okay.
But they just put together and made little lots. They bought a big chunk, and so they're developers, right? Basically,
right.
But they made this try to build a community with a plan, that kind of thing.
I see. How long has he been down there in Mexico for now?
How long has he been there?
Uh-huh.
Jesus, I don't know. Well, if I remember right, a few years ago, when I'd see his videos, he'd be like hopping all around before COVID, right?
Okay.
And then he sort of got confined to Mexico around the start of COVID. But he's been married to this woman for, I don't know. I mean, it wasn't new. I didn't see it like change from not being married to being married. He's got like teenage kids. So I think he's been married to her for a long time. But he was just sort of, jet setting around the world and doing these walk and talk video things. And now they're all in Mexico. And for a while, he got a motorhome, and he was thinking about maybe getting a big boat. But the motorhome didn't work out. So now he's like rented some big place or something. And he bought this property, and they're building this whatever compound.
I see. All right. Well, I'll look into what he's up to, and yeah, he could be a person to network with. I just know in the past, and I've reached out to him, he never responded. So try again.
Well, I don't think that there's any reason to not have somebody on that, on his platform. I mean, he's never said anything about I don't like these guys or anything like that. He's just like, well, these are the people I like to listen to. And he doesn't seem to me to have a thing against Gematria for sure. He talked one time about how he made all this money betting Bitcoin or some damn thing on hockey because he found some guy that's doing what you do, but just hockey.
Probably Luxy.
And he was a hockey fan.
Probably Luxy 91. So
maybe. Yeah. But anyways, he thought it was great. It's like, look how easy it is to make money. I just made $30,000 or,
Sure.
that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So I don't think he has any issues with Gematria. Maybe he doesn't quite get it. I mean, there's a lot, to me, in my opinion, there's a lot of stuff that he doesn't get because of the references to the creators that he makes are like to people who, in my mind, don't have the information right.
Sure.
So it's kind of like a little bit of youthful idiotness or something like that there.
Sure.
I don't know. Yeah. But, that's cool. He'd be a good resource if it works out.
All right. Well, I appreciate the information and the feedback, and I'll try and make the connection again. So thank you.
Okay, well, I got one quick question for you.
Sure.
So when you came to Seattle for the first time, and you were there at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation,
Yeah.
remember that?
Yeah, March 13th, 2020.
Yeah, so you were driving over, and I called you early that morning. I was going to try to get down and meet you, but it didn't work out. But then the following week, I sent you a letter that's fairly related to these topics, and it was on a piece of paper sent in the mail. Like, I didn't want to do this on email.
Okay.
Kind of wanted it a little more private. Do you remember if you ever got anything like that?
Did you send it to my P.O. box?
Steno pad.
Did you send it to my
What's
P.O.
that?
box?
I believe so, yeah.
I'm sure I did get it, but I mean, I just, over the years, I've gotten so many letters, so I can't exactly remember what was in there.
Yeah, okay. Well, is there a good way to have more, like, secure communication?
You can send me another letter to my P.O. box. I'll definitely be on the lookout for it again, so.
Okay, I'll try something like that.
Yeah, I know you're in
sounds good.
Snohomish, so I'll be like, okay, this is the gentleman I talked to recently.
Okay, sounds great, Zach.
All right, appreciate it, man.
Oh, another thing, like if you, well, I tried to put this in a note to you, but I've been working on all this stuff. Like I post a lot on Free to Find Truth, and I haven't heard a lot of people. You know, there's maybe half a dozen or 10 people on there that sort of talk about these topics about growing your food and making compost and all that kind of stuff, and post things about that. So I'm one of those people, and I'm telling you, you're absolutely right. It's well past time. It was very difficult to develop the skills and all the equipment and to get everything all in place. I mean, if you can hear a chicken in the background, I had to get chickens when this thing started because I knew I was going to need compost to make the dirt right, and blah blah blah. It goes on and on and on. So the sooner the better. You know what I'm saying?
Indeed.
So
all right.
I guess I'll leave you with that. Have a good afternoon. I'm going to pick up on the live stream again then.
Okay. Appreciate the call. Look forward to the letter. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
All right. Bye. Okay. There was a gentleman who wanted to call in. He said, I can call you in an hour. If you're out there, Mike, it's been an hour. I'll try calling him. He said he wanted to call in an hour ago. Or he said an hour.
Hey, Zach.
Hey, I called you because you said you wanted to talk in an hour. Is now a good time?
Can you give me about 15 minutes? I'll give you a call back.
You know I'm doing a live stream right now, right?
Oh, are you still going on that?
It is. That's why I wasn't sure. Did you want to be part of the live stream, or I can call you when I'm done?
Why don't you give me a call when you're done? I'm just in the middle of something.
All right. Yeah, I got you. Right. I'll call you back.
Thank you.
All right, see you. Okay, I guess he was on a different thing anyway. Well, I think what we should do for the time being, you guys, because again, I mean, you see that out of the whole community, there's not a lot of people that tuned in for this. So, and most people probably just think about this like, yeah, it's a nice idea, but it's not realistic with my life. It's hard. Again, people are kind of locked into the grind, but God, I think people really need to think about where are we being taken as a society? How ugly could things get in the near future? And, do you want it to be that scenario where, again, you don't have sovereignty over your body, your grocery store, that it's out of food because of a purposeful agenda, et cetera, et cetera. You're still doing the slave grind, but now it's even worse because your dollar's hardly worth anything, and now Big Brother's keeping tabs on every last drop. I mean, this really does seem like the path forward that the system has for us. And again, if you're like me or probably anyone else who's tuned in here today, that's not anything you want to be a part of. And so I think we're going to continue to have these conversations. I'll let you know when we're going to do the next one. For everyone on Patreon, not tomorrow night, but for every Sunday going forward, I'm going to start doing the Sunday night show as a Patreon exclusive thing. And just hopefully more of the community conversation comes up. And again, just try to appeal to the people who think this work's worth $1 a month. Hold on, we got young Ben calling in first. What's up, Ben?
Hey, Zach, how are you?
Doing all right. How are you?
We're doing all right. We're about to go hiking, but I just wanted to chime in. I just tuned in late because it was with family, but I saw your post about this subject last night. And I was thinking, I remember you mentioning last week that he said Arkansas and Alabama have some of the year-round weather, year-round growing season
Right.
for farming purposes.
Right.
And Mexico, and I saw that Mexico has like some fertile soil in like the Gulf area in central Mexico. And if you live near the Gulf, you have access to fishing and stuff like that. Yeah. But I mean, for people who maybe they don't want to go international for whatever reason, Arkansas, specifically Arkansas, it is a landlocked state, but the land there is really cheap. I was doing some research and said like Arkansas, Tennessee, and West Virginia, I think that's the cheapest land in the nation. And whereas like Alabama is like, I think Alabama is somewhere like $13,000 an acre. Arkansas is like $6,000 an acre. And I was just like, that's so maybe that, I don't know, let's just throw it out ideas.
Well, yeah, you might be right about Arkansas might actually be a little bit better than Alabama. Again, the main concern about those areas is just the storms and the tornadoes. That's the one thing that could be a nightmare. But
yeah, exactly. They could do the same thing. I mean, that entire region from like the only they could do
your call's pretty broken up right now, Ben. It sounds like you said you're going out hiking, so you might be in the woods.
Well, can you hear me now?
That's better.
Okay, yeah, we're in somewhat of a rural area. It's not quite too rural yet, but but anywhere from like Texas over to Florida and then like the Caribbean and Mexico, man, they could do weather warfare anywhere. I feel like, and it's like, I mean, like just based on that alone, it's like I don't know if it's really a guess when it comes down to it as to where the safest place to be is. I mean, the good news for us on this side of the Atlantic, and I think we're on the right side of the Atlantic Ocean based on, seems like European nations and cities are the guinea pigs for all the stuff they're trying to do. Like we saw what happened with, don't you love how like it's Bologna, Italy, that is the first European city to get the social credit system. It's like, literally when they're prepping it up like it's a good thing when their name of the city is Bologna, which is another word for bullshit.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I read earlier on Telegram today that Vienna, Austria, and some parts of Belgium and the Netherlands and Sweden are doing similar things. So, yeah, I think at the very least, I think we're on the right side of the ocean. But yeah, I mean at least as far as timing goes. But the thing is, I don't know how people feel about like landlocked states or areas versus states or countries that border like a body of water. Because I guess there's some exceptions. Like some have a lot of lakes and stuff, but or reservoirs. But if you have access to a body of water, you have more food source. But there's also it's also much easier for them to create a hurricane or a tornado and wipe out the whole place. I mean, didn't they do that with like a small town in California or Michigan recently? I mean, they're probably doing it all the time.
Well, a town just got smashed in Kansas today with a tornado, so I think I read like 500 structures destroyed or something like that. But
and I'll tell you what, like on top of, I don't know if you heard about this, but like there's been like 18 fires at distribution plants across North America in the last like 6 months or something. And, it's kind of gone viral in the alternative truth community. But on top of that, I mean, like, it's finally starting to warm up here a little bit, but just like over here in Pennsylvania where, there's a lot of like rural farmland. I mean, it was cold here the other night. I mean, like really, really cold in late April. And I'm just like, they're setting us up for something really bad. Just based on, like the weather's been all over the place. Like it's the night day today, it's like 64 degrees, but the other night it was like below 32 degrees, easy. And it felt like it was January yet. And if that keeps up and then like the weather keeps moving all over the place. First of all, when the weather's moving all over the place, people get sick, and then they can say they have COVID, and they'll say, oh, well, the COVID cases are going up, so we need to do this, this, and this. And it also kills the crops. And of course, the crops. Yeah, of course, the crops, right?
It seems like what it feels like from driving across the country is everywhere I drove, and the same cold, frigid air was blowing everywhere. It's like it feels like somehow they've changed like a jet stream and made it so like cold Arctic air is just like funneling in from everywhere. I was feeling it in Oklahoma. Everywhere I drove, from where I left in Washington to Oklahoma, the cold wind was blowing in. It's like, where's all this cold ass air coming from? So
it was like that the other night. It's been like that here for the last week, probably up until yesterday.
I think it's going on across the whole nation. I think somehow, because I mean, we know that what they're doing with the geoengineering, it's like on a global scale. So are they doing it to change jet streams and funnel in Arctic air to places it doesn't normally go to? It kind of seems like something like that is what's going on. So,
well, for sure. And what happened last year in Houston, it's the perfect example for that.
Exactly. So what's the vote from you two? Would you guys feel better about doing this in the States, or would you be open to Mexico?
Since I come from, not many people know this, I come from a family of farming and organic farming, because in the Soviet Union, like, people were too poor to use like DHT, unfortunately, what people used back then. So a lot of it was organic and stuff. So my dad and my mom are big gardeners, and you would have to assess what kind of risks, because unfortunately, I think HAARP is everywhere, so no one's going to escape it. That's what I personally think. So you got to assess what is the potential damage or the potential extreme weathers that they can do. Like I already know in Toronto, it's like 100-degree summer, and like as low as like 0 degrees Fahrenheit, even lower. That is going to kill your crop when it goes to that extreme. So you have to measure that way.
Right. So essentially what you're saying, I feel like all of those risks are reduced a lot if you go to Mexico. I feel like all those risks are a lot higher based on what's going on in the U.S. right now. That's why it might be better to leave the U.S. So.
And you would go to a place where the soil is more moist and not clay-based, up to one. And moisture for the soil, not too much, is a good thing, and it depends what you want to grow too. Like if you're going to Arkansas, you can grow wheat, you can grow like corn, you can grow like quinoa, barley, buckwheat, all that kind of stuff. Like the healthier grains are good for you. And so it really depends on what you want to grow. You have to look at the extremity, like the extreme weather patterns, because once they make the spring too cold, then it delays the growing season. And then that reduces the potential for the harvest.
Well,
and that's what they've been doing in Toronto a lot.
Well, they made it rain a lot there last summer.
Yeah, and that killed a lot of the crops. It's not supposed to rain that much to see that humid.
But so another thing I was thinking, just based on the situation that Natalie and I are in. By the way, she's finally getting a visa process. To stay here through ESL of all things, but whatever works, I guess. But the thing is, because I guess Polish is technically our first language, so that works out. But the problem is, this stuff can be. I know that this stuff can be manipulated, so it wouldn't be the end of the world. But as far as the United States is like the ultimate fascist with the medical industry too. So you need to have all sorts of injections, including the most recent CV injection, to even get a green card in the United States. As ridiculous as it sounds, they make it sound like you're a threat. Even though most of the country has no restrictions, and there's 40%. Oh, sure. I missed the part. But no, it's it's just stupid. And I don't think Mexico has that. So it would be easier from a legal perspective. But if we're trying to get away from everything legal to begin with, I don't know if we can. But
we have licenses. We all have passports, so we all sign documents. So I don't know if we can escape things legally.
But I mean, like from that legal perspective, as far as immigration goes, Mexico would be easier for her. Yep. But as far as I know that the gun laws are much more strict in Mexico. I think you have to be a part of a hunting club to own a gun there or something. I looked it up recently, but you can get one, but it's a lot harder than it is in the States. So I don't know. I mean, ideally, I think one in one place and one in the other. But if we had to pick one, then I don't know. Maybe Mexico. At least as of right now, for us personally, Mexico would be better. Just because of those things, plus having the Gulf of Mexico, plus Arkansas is a landlocked state, and Alabama is much more expensive. I mean, I was in Alabama a few years ago, and because I went to visit my friend who went to the University of Alabama, and the gas is cheap, but a lot of other things are shockingly expensive. Like the sales tax was 10% where I went. I don't know. I don't know if that really matters to us, but anyway, those are my thoughts. I mean, for us personally, Mexico would be better, but who knows? I mean, Mexico could turn tyrannical at any time. I mean, they're one of the least tyrannical countries right now with COVID and some other stuff. But we've seen what's happened to countries we once thought were freer.
But we haven't seen. I hear you're saying Costa Rica. It seemed like that was a pretty free place, but then all of a sudden they said, "Oh, mandatory vaccine," but then nobody complied, so they let it go. But we haven't heard anything like that out of Mexico. So Mexico hasn't really thrown up any red flags so far in the time of the pandemic like other places have.
No, Mexico. I think Mexico and El Salvador are the only countries that don't. Mexico and El Salvador, the last I checked, are the only ones that that don't require a PCR test or a vaccine. So that's. I guess that's good. But like I said, that could be it. That could just be the start, and who knows what happens next. So.
Right.
El Salvador is its own set of problems.
Yeah, and El Salvador is a different breed, so I wouldn't even bother with them. But at least based on what I've heard, I don't know. Maybe I've never even looked into MS-13 that much or anything like that. Just based on what I've heard, not the safest place to be. But then again, Mexico has cartels too. So then again, are those those cartels are probably controlled to an extent. We know the CIA was funneling drugs in here from Nicaragua and Latin America, a while back. They're probably still doing it to some extent. So.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's all I have to say.
All right. Well, you two have a great day. Good to hear both of your voices, and I'm glad somebody else had some votes for Mexico. So thank you, Ben and Natalie. Enjoy the hike.
Yeah.
All right.
We will.
Have fun, you two.
Have a good night.
All right. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
See you next time. All right. They're going hiking. And you know what? I think that was a good 2-hour plus healthy stream. And again, we got some things to think about. If you guys want to do some more research, I think we'll do another one of these streams. Let's say 2 weeks from now. Let's say 2 Sundays from now. Or hold on. That's not the weekend. Wait a minute. If not 2 Sundays from now, 3 Sundays from now, I might have something to going on that weekend. But we will do another one of these streams soon. And again, hold on, we got a call. I don't know if he's in the stream right now. Al, I'm live streaming right now?
Yeah, man. I just before you get off of there, I just wanted to put one more vote in for Mexico.
Okay, you're close to Mexico.
I talked to you about it already, man. We had almost bought property in Mexico years ago. And, a bunch of us may end up in Mexico. So, personally, I would love if people had a problem with it, I guess, then it's a no-go. But I would love to invest and whatever you guys are doing now.
Well, it's like, look at this. I mean, the property I have up on the screen, you can't get this in the U.S. 100 acres of farmland for $175,000?
Dude, it's a win-win situation, man. If you got enough people willing to be there now, you know, and to work it and do what needs to be done. So, I would jump on this shit quick because you know what they're doing. I mean, they're raising real estate up everywhere.
Right.
So we know that's happening. So the quicker the better on this.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that too. The price of this could be a lot more, you know, just even 6 months from now. So.
For sure.
All right.
And, you know, it's funny. It was funny that guy they called in, the guy that already lives off, you know, he lives off the land and everything.
Uh-huh.
He went to, he's from Ohio. You got a lot of followers from Ohio, man.
Yeah, indeed.
But, yeah, it's funny, that story, because two guys I went to high school, we were pretty tight, all three of us, with the, you know, all boys elder high school, but both of them got degrees from that same Jesuit university there in Xavier. And we're not that close anymore, unfortunately, but that's okay. You know, they don't want to see it, I guess.
Yeah, same boat I'm in with my friends, so.
All right, man. Well, yeah, I just want to put a vote in for Mexico. I think Mexico, there's a lot of American people in Mexico already.
There are.
You know? So it's not like, I mean, I've been there. I went down there, you know me, I stick out like a sore thumb, man. So as soon as I cross, they don't give a shit. Anybody can go over there. It's getting back over where it's an issue.
Sure.
But when you're over there, like when I was first at the post office, I didn't have a dental plan, right? So people told me like, hey man, you can go down there for a root canal for like $200 or $300. I'm like, you serious?
Right.
I did it. I went down there. I had a root canal. It was fine. I had to go down there like 2 times. They fitted the crown, everything. And that was it. You know, it was no big deal. I mean, you're walking into, it was like a third world country, but they had all the technology, like the little dental places, you know, they had the equipment and everything to do it.
And speaking of that,
you know, you weren't getting raked over the schools.
Exactly, but a lot of people go to Mexico for their health care because it's a lot cheaper, and you might even be getting better care than you get here in the States where they're overloaded. But if you get your permanent resident card, it even qualifies you for their health care system. You don't even have to be a citizen. So,
wow.
Anyway.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that. Well, hey, that was all I had. I know you were getting off of there, but yeah, I don't know what the general. I heard most of the calls. I heard most of them, but were most people on board with staying in the States, or was it kind of?
Well, the later half of callers have been on board with Mexico, so it's about 50-50.
Yeah, I think the people that's scared of Mexico, they just think of all this, you know, federale and all that. And I mean, yeah, that stuff's out there, but they're doing their own thing, man. You know, I mean, sometimes you'll have run-ins with these cops, and they are corrupt and shit, and you know, you got to pay them a stupid fine to be on your way. But I mean, I think the majority of the time that shit doesn't happen. It's usually pretty isolated.
Right. So.
But yeah, if you're minding your own business and doing your thing, I don't think those people are going to fuck with you. Like I said, a lot of Americans, once you get down to some of these hot spots, that's all it is.
Right. Indeed.
All right, Zach.
All right, appreciate it, Al.
That was a good call, man. That was a good call on this show, though, getting that going, because, you know, the sooner the better on this, dude. You know that. Our time is running out.
Indeed it is.
Yeah, the hourglass is towards the bottom, man.
Unfortunately,
the sand is running out.
Yeah, it is.
All right,
Al. Appreciate it, man.
Chat at you later. See you guys.
Yeah, take care.
Bye.
All right, somebody else was trying to phone in too. I believe it was Itachi. So let's let Itachi get in here.
Your call has been forwarded to...
Well, Itachi, I'll hang on here for you. I saw you were trying to get in. Let me check in with the chat while we wait on Itachi's call. He did call a couple times there. Well, it's like you got to pick what the greatest risk is. I mean, all things are good and bad. I just honestly feel that staying in the States, I feel that's where you're likely to run into the most problems in terms of what's coming down the pike. Hold on, this isn't Itachi, but we got a call from the 201 area code. What's up, 201?
Hey, what's up, Jackson?
Yeah, what's going on?
This might be off topic. I just literally just got on the stream, but I just wanted to talk to you about Formula One racing. That's an observation I had. If you have time for this.
Well, I mean, it's not exactly what the stream's about. Maybe save it for tomorrow's show, for the Sunday show.
All right, cool. Yeah, it's because it's really interesting. I wanted to talk to you about it, but yeah, no problem then.
Okay, man. So tomorrow's better. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Man.
All right, so yeah, I don't think we have a bunch of people there into Formula One either. Hold on, Itachi was trying to call in while we got the Formula One call.
Did you just hang up on the other guy?
Oh, I didn't hang up on him, but I said maybe tomorrow we'll talk Formula One. So.
Gotcha. I was catching up, but yeah, I'm not trying to be, a naysayer or be negative. I just think it's a, real possibility that if we're down there and successful in doing our thing, they could pay the cartel because I would definitely assume the Jesuits have some connection with the cartel either through a politician or something like that, and if they were to just come raid our stuff, it would just be like a, typical shrug your shoulders, like Mexican gang, murders Americans. Or we probably don't even hear this story. It's, I feel like if it was happened today, it's like, there's no guarantee that would be in the news.
Sure. I mean, it's a possibility. They could also do the same thing to us in the U.S., so.
Again, I feel like there's more transparency in the U.S. Than over there, and then we can legally own guns.
Right, that's the one advantage we have. But
and
yeah,
I know,
it is the biggest concern. It is the biggest drawback. It is the biggest threat. It's just again, there's less weather warfare down there, which is a big deal. There's less chance of tornadoes. I mean, it's just tough. I mean, it's like, ideally, we wouldn't have to do any of this, but we're just trying to figure out what is the best way to mitigate the least problems that could be coming down our path in terms of what's going on in the world right now. So,
I see. Well, with Mexico, I see like, a potential legality issue. They could just pull something out of their ass and be like, oh, you guys would, to a degree, be like, you're here illegally. I feel like you avoid that if we're in the U.S.
Well, as long as everybody gets their permanent resident card, which anybody can apply for, from what I understand, it's pretty easy to get. So
that's true. And I'm thinking to the extreme here. Imagine if they're like, you're inciting something that's unlawful, and they could just arbitrarily say that, and then it violates the residency. But that that's going a long way down. But I just want to voice my kind of concern with that. I am on board for either or. But I just want to, fully weigh those options and see what you thought.
Okay, well, here, if we stayed in the U.S., where do you think's the most ideal spot in the U.S.?
I do like the kind of more New Mexico idea. If there's some, potential farmland there. I don't like Alabama or, the Southeast too much because they get rocked by the weather warfare. I know they can do that basically, everywhere, but I do like New Mexico.
New Mexico does not have tornadoes.
Okay, yeah, or earthquakes, right?
Well, I mean, if they had one, it wouldn't be that. I don't think it'd be that big of an earthquake, but it's not too far from California, so.
So, and the big Lake Tahoe is probably not too far from there, and I just think you don't want to be too much on the east side. Just historically, it has all these historical connotations, and they probably like to do rituals around. New Orleans up to Atlanta, around there. So I'm leaning more like southwest.
Okay, southwest over southeast. Well, a lot less weather threats. So, okay. All right. Well, I appreciate the feedback. I mean, again, there's good and bad to all things. Yeah, the cartel thing, I mean, it's hard to say how much of a threat it would be. It's just like, I'm serious. If you go to Seattle, everyone's scared of Yakima. They think you're going to die if you come here because the Mexican mafia is in town. But,
I don't think organically the cartel, I think if we succeed in what we're doing and, you could say there are other Americans living there, but not really, they're like just trying to get by, make a living. I think what we're trying to do is something, a lot more, could be interrupting of their society how it operates. Even if we're not competing with them, it's just like, I feel like that Jesuit connection, they'd be like, no, we're not going to let this happen. But they could do that in the U.S., so.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll keep talking about it. We'll figure it out, so appreciate the feedback, Itachi. Thanks, man.
All right, man. Yep, see ya.
Yeah, take care. Okay. The other thing I got to do is get Sweet Lady on board. She doesn't understand as well as I do the threats that are coming down the pike. So, anyway, we will leave it there for now. I just shut down the phone. We will do the Sunday show tomorrow. Again, Sunday show tomorrow will be for everyone, but then for all following Sundays, I think I'm just going to make the Sunday show a Patreon community thing. People say do more exclusive Patreon content. A lot of you guys are saying, Zach, don't quit sports. I probably won't. It's just, yeah, it's just, I'm telling you guys, man, they're putting it out there how bad things are going to get for us if, from the surveillance to food shortages to mandatory vaccinations. I mean, it's all coming, you guys, and I don't want to be any part of it. I don't think anyone who's listening today wants to be any part of it. And, yeah, I mean, they're even talking about, just, oh, man, the economy's not looking good. Oh, my God, the dollar could be in trouble. It's like, what's even the point of winning any money off the bets if it's all about to get crashed? So I'm thinking the more pressing thing is to wake people up to the agendas. If we could figure out how to do that, that would be a big plus. And if we can create community and a new path forward, that's a big plus. To me, those are the two things that really need to be done more than even winning any more sports bets. So We'll leave it there for now. Sunday night show tomorrow. Who knows? Between now and tomorrow, I might have a few more videos out based on what happens in the news. Of course, tomorrow is the anniversary of the establishment of the Illuminati. It is May 1st tomorrow, May Day. So we'll see what they got for May Day. But yeah, we'll leave it there for right now. And I see the comment. Setting up multiple communities is probably the best thing to do. We just got to figure out how to organize people and pool resources and make it happen. So thanks, Denise. I appreciate it. Okay, so good conversations in the chat. We'll leave it there for now. Have a great rest of your day. And until next time, Truth Seeker.